Now, I know we all know that government is always the problem, masquerading as its own solution, and the people in government are really good at pretending and masquerading. But I really think it's important to constantly remind us that these politicians that look so good at first, who say all the right things, who use their campaign to hoodwink all of these people to having hope in them, constantly let us down. As they say, it's not a flaw, it's a feature of the system, the injustice system. And RFK is just another one of those political parasites who got you to believe that he was going to make America healthy again. What we have here on the left side of your screen is RFK Jr. on October 2024 saying Big Pharma is, quote, counting on selling Ozempic to Americans because we're so stupid and so addicted to drugs. A year later, in October of 2025, the same RFK Jr. says that with GLP-1 drugs, Americans will lose 125 million pounds by this time next year.
They're trying to sell this. There's a huge push to sell this to the American public, and is now the biggest company in Europe, but they're not marketing it in Europe. They make this drug in Denmark, and in Denmark, they do not recommend it for diabetes or for obesity. They recommend dietary and behavioral changes. Mm-hmm. In our country, they're counting on selling it to Americans because we're so stupid and so addicted to drugs.
So back in 2024, October of 2024, in RFK Jr.'s mind, the solution to this problem was behavioral and dietary changes. But the problem with that is if people start changing their diets and their behaviors, well, that doesn't make the big pharma industrial complex any money. We can't make any money when people are healthy. They gotta be using our drugs. And everybody with any common sense knows that RFK Jr. was right. Lifestyle changes and dietary choices are what's going to win the day and cause you to be much healthier. But less than a year later, this Lolita Express flying Israeli shill says this.
Everybody will be able to get this drug, and it's going to change. We will lose, the American public, because of this agreement, will lose 125 million pounds by this time next year. It is going to have dramatic effects on human health in this country.
Because of this multi-billion-dollar agreement with the big pharma industrial complex, we're going to turn health around in this country. We're going to lose 125 million pounds. Yeah, you could be way healthier with dietary choices and lifestyle changes, but the big pharma industrial complex isn't going to profit from that. And because I serve the self-proclaimed father of the vaccine, I have changed my tune. Psych! Here's another thing RFK Jr. said once upon a time.
Product that is illegal for weight loss in Europe is made by the biggest pharmaceutical company in Europe, Novo Nordisk. And they say in their materials, we're going to get all of this money from, this is going to be the biggest medical product ever made. And 100% of the money is going to come from the United States of America because we have the greatest obesity issue in the world. We have the greatest diabetes affliction, and we're the only ones that will allow it. And the impacts of this drug are just terrible. It paralyzes the stomach. It stops a lot of the serotonin that we produce happens in the stomach, part of the microbiome, and it destroys our capacity to produce serotonin.
What did he just say?
The impacts of this drug are just terrible. It paralyzes the stomach. It stops a lot of the serotonin that we produce happens in the stomach, part of the microbiome, and it destroys our capacity to produce serotonin. And it has on its label now, I think, black box warnings about suicidal ideation, and then it works while you use it for a lot of people, but it causes severe gastrointestinal problems. And the moment you stop using it, you regain all the weight. And meanwhile, your stomach's been paralyzed, and a lot of those impacts last, apparently, according to what they said on the program, after the use of the drug is terminated. But some of the most interesting, he talks about the amount of lobbying money that is going into the AAP, that the NAACP is now a registered lobbyist for the pharmaceutical companies, and on their website they label criticism of Ozempic as racist.
So let me get this straight. RFK Jr. once said about these GLP-1 drugs that they're just terrible, they hurt the microbiome, and they cause severe problems. But now he's saying these same GLP-1 drugs are a net benefit to Americans?
Everybody will be able to get this drug, and it's going to change. We will lose, the American public, because of this agreement, will lose 125 million pounds by this time next year. It is going to have dramatic effects on human health in this country.
So you might be sitting there asking yourself, what happened to the impacts of this drug are just terrible. It's going to harm the microbiome and cause severe problems. Did those severe problems just go away because you got the call? Because your pockets were padded? Because you were threatened? I mean, blink twice, RFK. Or is it the more logical explanation that you were just an actor the entire time selling Americans on a bill of goods that you weren't planning on delivering? This is what I mean by narcissistic, political, psychopathic parasites. They're just actors. They're theatrical stagehands just rolling out the props. And fake-stream CIA-infiltrated Operation Mockingbird, MK Ultra propaganda outlets like Faux News are just popularizing these parasites' deceptive messages so they can hoodwink more Americans and gather more fish into their net of darkness. I mean, listen to this again.
They're trying to sell this. There's a huge push to sell this to the American public, and
there's a huge push to sell this to the American public, and now he's become the salesman for these big pharma industrial giants who are pushing out these products in the name of a healthy America.
Is now the biggest company in Europe, but they're not marketing it in Europe. They make this drug in Denmark, and in Denmark, they do not recommend it for diabetes or for obesity. They recommend dietary and behavioral changes. Mm-hmm. In our country, they're counting on selling it to Americans because we're so stupid and so addicted to drugs.
They're counting on selling this to Americans because they're so stupid and addicted to drugs, says the guy who is now counting on Americans to be so stupid and addicted to the drugs he is now pushing, which he once condemned. And how about RFK's voice situation? Who does he blame for that? Well, I asked Grok, does RFK Jr. blame Big Pharma for his voice being the way it is? And Grok said, yes, RFK Jr. has speculated that his spasmodic dysphonia, speaking of phonies, may be linked to a flu vaccine he received annually around the time his symptoms began in 1996, viewing it as a, quote, potential culprit based on its listing as a rare adverse reaction in vaccine package inserts. However, he has explicitly acknowledged that there is no scientific proof or established causal connection describing the idea as his own speculation. By the way, in case you were curious, GLP-1 medications are glucagon-like peptide 1 agonists. And an agonist binds to a specific receptor on a cell and activates it. They're injectable or oral, and they mimic the GLP-1 hormone to regulate blood sugar, slow digestion, and promote fullness. One example of these is Ozempic. So at one time, Bobby tried to convince Americans that they were just terrible and they'll mess you up. Now he's singing a different tune. Gosh, we didn't see that coming. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the global thought police in the comment section below. If you like this content, maybe you'll like some of my others. If you want to support this channel, you can do it for free. Just like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification icon. If you want to support the channel further and get something in return, check out the shirt store or become a channel member, or maybe even both. I really appreciate you being here, and I will see you in the next video.